All right, we are back, and let me just take a second to get situated here. My work ended a little bit late today, so I am rushing to set up, but we'll get there. No rush. Welcome back to the Friday Open Studio design session. Again, if you're new, this is a kind of a session that's online, and it's intended to really provide a studio type environment where I'm working on a project and you can work on your own project as well. That's kind of the idea behind this whole thing. So I encourage you guys to use this as kind of a work, kind of a, I don't know, you just stream it while you work on your own projects. But anyways, this is this week's stream. I'm really actually just trying to get myself situated here, so please excuse me for a moment here. Just trying to set up. So I also need to get myself a drink, so I'll be right back. So, thanks for waiting. Even though there's like only one person on the stream right now who's watching. Shout out to you, whoever you are. All right, so let's see. No messages. All right. So I'm gonna move this a little bit closer. So last week we actually made a lot of progress. We basically finished off this forward canopy nose section. As you can see, it looks quite decent. It looks very three-dimensional. The only thing that I would change about it is maybe the size, but that's not something that can easily be changed at this point in the game. So we're just gonna keep this as is, but for future notice, I guess, I can actually make this a little tiny bit smaller, maybe like 1/8 of an inch smaller. It's a very subtle thing, but this thing looks massive, especially in the absence of a intake on the bottom. But I think the next step here really this week is to start working on the bottom side of this model. I don't know if this thing will actually fly, to be honest, at this point, because it's actually quite, I mean, it's like not heavy, but the amount of wing area that it has really makes me question the effectiveness. This thing will probably have to fly really fast to stay aloft. So we'll see when that, when the time comes for flight tests. But for now, it's a little bit questionable. I don't really know if it'll fly, but it is what it is. Especially, I'm trying to think right now because this is like a little bit heavier than normal, I would say, and the bottom side isn't even done yet. So when this is complete, it'll be a lot heavier, which will be very interesting to test out how the physics of that works. But yeah, otherwise it's looking good so far. Again, the mechanism isn't that great, but it does move, right? Just kind of going over what I've done for the project so far, right? You can see the slight adjustment in the tail. Um, and then when you push it in, you're able to actually just manually, because the mechanism inside isn't that smooth, right? The joint, where this linear motion translates into rotational motion here, it's not very reliable, which it needs a little bit of work. But this is the first time I've integrated two mechanisms into one, so it's actually quite decent if you think about it in that kind of a frame of mind. um, but it deploys the flaps, right, or leading edge slats rather. um, I think they're called leading edge flaps. I'm actually not too sure about that, because slats imply like moving forward, and there's a gap in between your control surface and your main wing, which I guess in this case is true, but it's not by design, right? There's a tiny tiny gap in between the leading edge flap and the rest of the wing. But it is what it is. So it's looking good so far. The tail is, it is what it is. I actually compressed it. I think I mentioned this last time. I applied a clip to really just pinch this down in place. And I think it really made some changes, but it's not quite as thin as I would like it. So maybe in a future iteration, I'll just use like paperclip or something that's super thin, um, to get that razor sharp, edge right there. Because in fighter jet designs, because they're just traveling at supersonic speeds, you don't want a lot of thickness, because that generates a lot of drag. And then actually curvy airfoils in supersonic regimes, they have all kinds of shock waves forming out of them, so it's not really ideal. So if you look at planes like the F-16, right, and then the F-22, the F-35, they all have very sharp tail surfaces, and that's because you don't want to create like transition, um, bow shocks and whatnot when you're going really fast. But that's like beyond the scope of what we're doing here. Um, I just want it to look really thin, and that's kind of why I, compressed it. But yeah, it didn't really work too well. There's still a little bit of thickness left, which is it's not ideal, but it's as thin as we can get it to be. So yeah, that's kind of the overall design right now. So I guess for today, we're just really gonna start to model the underside here, and that's basically a little bit of the nose here, right? The nose is, it's round, so there's gonna be a little bit down here that I need to, kind of model, and then the intake, which hangs off of this fuselage, goes straight down, right? There's a diverter plate I mentioned at one point in one of my videos, and the whole thing just continues back here, and it's cleverly integrated with the fuselage. So we'll see how that goes. Might need some reference pictures to do so, but right now I think we can start with the prep work, which is just cleaning up some of this mess up here. And then so there's like tape left over from what we did last week, on top. It just carries over down here, so we need to kind of like prime this surface. I feel like it's just it's probably the best way to go. Although I actually, if you've listened in on my other live streams, I actually have no idea what I'm doing. I just go with the flow and do what seems right. It's kind of like like a sculpture in that sense. Like, it's an art endeavor instead of like an engineering project, but that's kind of where I like to operate. So So we're just gonna go ahead and start cleaning this up. And yeah, again, I apologize if like this stream cuts short, or in the future if it, my phone overheats or something like that. Those are technical difficulties that I don't really have a solution for. One is because of the app, and the other is because of my phone's thermal performance issues. Um, so it is what it is. So we're just gonna go ahead and hope that it doesn't crash on us this week. But if it does, I'll just continue and go up to I think it's like 7:30, 7:40 ish time frame, because these streams are usually 2 hours and 10 minutes. So yeah, we're just working our way through this. It's a little rough up front, which is interesting. I'm just gonna trim this off using an X-Acto, right? It's really easy like that. Okay, so I'm thinking about priming it with a layer of cardstock, but I'm not sure if that'll be too heavy. Right, we also need to think about, where the center of gravity should be for this thing, which, quite honestly, I don't know. I might have to look up like a diagram somewhere, but I would guess it's somewhere around here where the wings start, because you want the center of lift, which is back here, right, to be behind the CG, which needs to be here. So that means somewhere in this nose we also need to put a coin of some sort to really shift the gravity forward a little bit. I don't have any coins with me right now, but I do have a bunch of magnets, so that might do the trick. Just gonna check the chat. Nothing so far. All right, so okay, we do have the template for the bottom side. It's in the archives somewhere. Let me just try and find it. Yep, it's right here. So this is what we used to trace our template in the first place. Now we might have to use it again to get a layer of cardstock to equalize or to really just prime, not equalize, prime the the bottom side here to make it a little more even. But I'm not sure if I want to actually do that. It's very interesting, because if you attach an intake structure directly on here, I don't know, you save a little bit of weight, but then also, yeah, I think I want to prime it, because you don't want like, you want to like model the side of the intake where it's, so imagine like a surface hitting this base fuselage like this. You're gonna have to use another piece of cardstock to cover up this leftover bit, and it's cleaner visually just to prime the whole base first and then build your intake on top of that. So for aesthetic purposes, we're going to go with a piece that's gonna go underneath to prime everything. Though I will say the backside doesn't really need too much. I feel like, I'm not confident in my in my assessment here, but looks like this is too short. Looks like we might need to do it. I really don't want to do this, because right now it's like a diagonal piece, and this is not a good use of cardstock material. You're wasting like a bunch of area. Because I'm thinking like you could actually use this way or this way to create the intake structure. So I'm not sure about this at all. I might just have to use a new sheet, to be honest. Let me see what I got here. Okay, yeah, it's not a lot. It is not a lot of material. We might actually have to start a new piece of cardstock, which is unfortunate because I like to conserve material. Alright, but you know, this stuff is cheap, right? It's like $3 or $4 for like 50 sheets. So, you know, as long as you're mindful most of the time, it should be okay. And these pieces aren't, you know, used that often, right? Because these are massive, right? The fuselage is one long continuous piece, and normally you don't really have that problem. I guess if we really wanted to, we could break it up into like a forward portion and an aft portion. I don't know. I'm trying to think if that's worth it. And then, you know, there's going to be a seam at a certain location, right? So it's like, where do you want the seam to be? But no, actually, I kind of don't want to waste a new sheet here, so I'm gonna go with the 2-sheet method here. And I'm gonna do something interesting with it because I really don't want like a seam out here that's very noticeable, right? So if you like, you know, if you panel this forward portion here, and then you say okay, cut this off at this trailing edge here, and create another rectangular piece. You know, that'll do the job. It'll align with this, but it's still going to be visible, right? I'm trying to think of a way to do it so it's not visible, but I don't think there is like a good way to do that. So actually, I might just go ahead and create a section here. That's actually pretty decent though, you know, because it's aligned with, you know, a horizontal edge, right? Because if you look at the airplane like this, it's going to be a horizontal edge that matches up perfectly. And this is very nitpicky. You might be wondering, like, why do I even care about this if we're not going to see it most of the time? But it's just, you know, it's just how I operate, I guess. All right, so we're going to kind of just mark this down. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. We are going to, okay, so we're going to align this with the trailing edge here. And kind of just trace the front portion of the aircraft here. And this is going to be a little bit big, but it'll be okay. We're just going to trace this side here to get a exact match. And the reason we're not using the original is that this new, I guess this workpiece here is what it's actually going to need, right? We're designing for this, so we should be using this as the stencil, not the original design, because, you know, this actually accounts for all the different layers of cardstock, right? It's going to be a little bit off, and you want to be able to capture that. So you can always, you know, align it with what you had originally. It's not a bad idea, but it's just, you see, this is like, there's this clear size difference between what we have and what we used to have. Well, I will say this is gonna be interesting. This is a little bit slanted. Yeah, it's a little bit slanted. Alright, so I'm gonna zoom down here, get you guys a good view here. I'm gonna trace this edge right here, right? And chances are this is gonna be a little bit big. You'll notice for this bottom couple of edges here, I am actually using the original template, and that's because it's, you know, it's not dependent, or rather I should say it like this, there's not a lot of cardstock material here that adds to the thickness, so we can actually just use the original template, because it'll probably be closer to the actual shape underneath for this this cereal box, you'll lower your cholesterol. This is from a Cheerio box, so it's a very stiff base. Um, so this is the rough shape that we need. I'll try and see if like this matches, right? So if you test out your original stencil, you'll see that it is actually a little bit small. So right, you have this bit of tolerance here with the outer panels just matching up here. So you need to account for that difference. And I think this should be good. All right, so I'm gonna move this up so you guys can see a little better. All right, I'm gonna cut this out. This used to be, all these other lines used to be another project, but finally getting to use this piece of cardstock because it was just, I had it lying somewhere. So these lines don't look that great and they might be confusing, so I don't know, should I erase them? Just want to do one more match before I start cutting into it. Alright, so this is the trailing edge. Alright, the trailing edge is aligned. Just gonna deepen these lines a little bit so that we know which one to use. Yeah, this bit right here is still a little bit confusing. So we zoom in. It's kind of hard to discern which one we want to keep, but I think we want to keep the innermost one. Yeah, we want to keep the, or actually, it's kind of hard to tell. It's kind of hard. All right, it never hurts to go a little bit large, so we're gonna do that. And I think this middle one is actually the right one because it continues all the way back here. So you just want to make sure you don't confuse yourself when you when you make these marks. So just a very easy thing to do that'll help you build better, I guess. I kind of think of this as like, Kerbal Space Program, right? Like, I don't know if you guys ever played that game. I haven't, but I have friends who are very into that, and they model like airplanes in that game and build them. This is kind of like that, except in real life, so what you're building actually will be interacting with real life physics instead of game physics. But yeah, it's a very interesting game. I highly recommend it if you're into tinkering, but you feel like you don't want to deal with the material, you just want to do things virtually. Kerbal Space Program is a great way to do that. Build all sorts of different things. All right, so I think we're good here. I'm just gonna start cutting, and hopefully this outline will fit because we did our job right. This is gonna be a little rough, but it's okay because if there's extra on the sides, I think we should be able to trim the excess off. Whoa, all right. You'll notice this is not very geometrically perfect, which is good. I mean, it's not like great because it's it's off of spec, but the fact that it is off means that it is a better fit for our model that we have, that we've been working on for the past, I don't know, several streams. So this is like custom made and custom tailored to the work piece that we have, right? So that's kind of the thing that you have to, get your mind across, I guess, is, just accept the fact that it's not going to be perfect. And, you should tailor whatever you need to whatever you have, instead of trying to go off of an ideal shape. So if you try and like do the original template, right, I mean, it'll fit mostly, but there's going to be gaps and, fit issues, right? There's going to be like tiny areas where it's missing material. But this is like a custom fit kind of a panel, so it should match the bottom a lot better. So I'm not sure if I made any sense there, but it is what it is. Take it as you will. If you want to learn something and watch this, then you might learn something. But you see, this will fit a lot better than the other workpiece. We're just trying to align it here, right? So this, as you can see, the sides are pretty clean, right? Because we traced it exactly onto the cardstock that we just cut. But if you switch back to the original template, which is this white printer paper here, right, you'll notice that this does not fit the same, because we use this original template to create the base, right? And then we built off of the base, right? We did all the 3D modeling on top here, and that's going to cause some issues on the sides where, there's going to be layers of material that are accumulating there. So as you can see, this is not as good of a fit, right? There's some stuff on the side. So that's why you want to you want to try and tailor your parts together like this. So in a nutshell, it's kind of what I wanted to I guess teach you guys. It's kind of how I do things. There's still some imperfections, right? And that's just maybe from like the way I cut the actual cardboard base. Might have cut a little bit out and not enough concave here, because there's a sliver here that's kind of poking out. But it should be okay for the most part. All right, so for the back here, we're not exactly matching, which is okay, because we actually have excess material here. Right, so if you notice this, if we fit the corners here perfectly together, we have a little bit of extra here, which we are going to mark off with 0.5 millimeter pencil. Very versatile tool. Highly recommend getting one with a drafting tip, which is this needle point, which is a very precise feel to it. It's going to be here to here, right? The wings, right? There's some manufacturing tolerance issues as well. And because this piece is mostly aesthetic, we want to align the edges together. It's not going to be perfectly straight across, right? There's a little tiny gap, but for aesthetic purposes, we want to make it align with this. And manufacturing tolerances, they're inescapable, basically. You really just have to learn to deal with them, because I can spend a million years on this thing and it's not going to be perfect, right? It's always going to be slightly off, because the precision of your eyes is always going to be not as great as machine, right? But even machines, they have tolerance bands too, right? If you try and machine something that's designed for a certain spec, a certain decimal place like 0.1 millimeters, right? There's always going to be 0.11, like that extra decimal point is another degree of freedom, right? It's very hard to close that and really try and get a very tight tolerance. It's just it is what it is. You're not going to be perfect. You're not going to make something like to the numbers perfect. But you can get really, really close, right? But you're never gonna get an exact part. So that's just kind of a theory behind manufacturing. I guess, you know, you have to account for these things. And sometimes, you know, you can do interference fits, right? You can have a little bit of overlap and whatnot. That should help you out a little bit with, you know, if you want a tight clearance, right? If you have two pieces that actually intersect, then you're not gonna have like a gap, right? But the trade-off there is, you know, you have to have an intersecting kind of a shape, a topology, right? So it's very interesting. It's fascinating actually, because I'm working with jet engines as my job. So one of the things that I do is create computer models for these things, and you know, parts fit together, and how are you going to model them, right? And that's a whole thing on its own, part of my job. All right, so that looks good. So this piece works pretty well. I think I'm ready to actually tape this down. I'm gonna tape this back piece down first. Okay, looks decent. As long as it's stuck in place, we should be okay, you know, after it's aligned, of course. Okay, just trimming this little bit off here. All right, looks good. Should probably remove this tiny sliver of tape. These things are annoying because they stick really tightly, and it's really hard to remove them. Alright, so we're just gonna take a little bit here, and okay, so this, there's a little hair right there. Alright, I'm going to do this, overlap, right? Alright, maybe need a little bit more overlap. I don't know if you guys can see this. This is like off screen. I'm really not thinking about the camera, more about just streaming this. Alright, so this should be perfect. We don't even need any trimming because this edge lines up. Alright. Probably need another one here. Alright. Looks pretty good. It's a pure coincidence that the width of this tape, which is 0.75 inches, 3/4 of an inch, is actually perfect for this amount. It's like almost exactly on, line on line, but it's good. It works. And if there is any extra, like you see here, right, it's always easy to just make a cut, right, like that, and then make another cut. And this results in a very clean trailing edge here. You know, I'm kind of glad the vertical tail is strong enough for me to put this plane at this angle. You know, it's pretty decent. It's pretty stiff. All right, I'm gonna move my scissors and pencil to the other side and put the tape here. All right, should be good. Should be good now. All right. This is gonna be interesting. This piece will have to interface with this leading edge here, which is slanted, right? It's sloped. So how could actually like offset it backwards a little bit. I'm gonna use the same strategy here. Just stick this a little bit tighter and then use a knife, an X-Acto knife to trim. It's a very precision part here, be careful. Okay, I just take this off and tack it somewhere. Alright, looks good. This is perfectly fit here. And then for this, we do need to secure this bit. It's a very tiny detail, but you might miss it if you don't pay attention to it. This leading edge slat here, we need to slide a piece of tape through the gap. Right, and try our best to align it. It's not going to be perfect. Yeah, right, and then you just wrap it over to the top here, and you just kind of compress it, pinch it down, make it really tight, and then finish that piece of tape. So this will close the clearance a little bit between the slat and the fuselage, which is good. Hopefully it doesn't interfere. Which I don't think it does. Might be very, very slight, but should be within acceptable bounds. Right, so take another piece here and do the same thing. Right. Notice here we're not going half and half. We're just kind of aligning with this notch right here. Which, it works for me. You don't really need half. Just need a little bit to tack on. Right? You just slice this. Right? Kind of like a surgeon here. Cutting a little bit. This looks pretty decent. With a finished underside, it looks a little bit better already, even though this is not its final state. We can now proceed to tape the rest of this on, bit by bit. Right? We don't want to rush this. Joy of surface modeling here. Okay, so if you have these little extra edges here hanging off, you can always trim them. Switch directions sometimes too. Trim them off like that. This is a very, very nice curve right here. Imagine when it's angled up, when the nose is angled up, your air actually just curves here and then creates a vortex right in this little ridge here, this concave portion here. Very cool. The other side here, do a little piece like this. decent. Oh, I just realized we didn't really tape down this other side here. Left that untaped for a week. Unbelievable. I did not know about that. Actually, we don't need to fold this over. We can actually just cut this to save the underside from getting too crowded with slices of tape. Alright, looks good. And then, yeah, I'll just slowly working our way forward here. Just something like this, right? And then here's where we need to cut a little bit to approximate the edge, because it's a curved edge, but we don't have curved pieces of tape, so we need to slice it in multiple sections here to try and match that a little closer than a single straight piece would be able to do. Something like that. Over time, this gray material will actually turn kind of a ghostly white cream color. It's a very interesting shade of gray. It's definitely not white, but it's a very pale kind of gray. I'm hoping by that time, when that happens, this all these tape pieces will disappear a little bit more. It's closer to the white shape, or white color. White is not a shape. So, you know, it is interesting to see materials change color like that, and then, you know, your tape panels just kind of blend away. Alright, so I'm gonna put this down here, and again, you know, it's the same strategy right here. I'm just gonna zoom in a little closer so I don't have to worry too much about the camera here. Alright, so cut there, this transition curve here, right, and then maybe one more here, but it really doesn't matter because this is not a structural piece per se, right? This tape, it's really to enable this really tight bonding between the two surfaces. Tape it really tightly so that this piece doesn't fall off, because if this primer piece falls off, sorry for not being in the frame there, if this primer piece falls off, then your entire undercarriage, which is, you know, your intake here, is gonna get pulled with it, and you're gonna lose that whole section of your plane, which would be tragic. That's like half the thickness of the plane. I feel like after we install the intakes, it's gonna look a lot better, right? Because it's one of the characteristic bits of the F-16 is the single engine inlet and intake on the bottom. So it's a very distinctive feature. Single engine plane, so this plane is actually really nice in my opinion for making. Of course, it's pretty straightforward because there's a lot of, you know, straight edges, right? Like the wing, the trailing edge here is, you know, pretty straight. The tip here, vertical, right? The aft portion of the, you know, fuselage here is pretty straight, and then the, you know, the nozzle ends in a straight line right there. Well, I mean, most nozzles do. It's just this thing has a lot of very nice edges, very straight angles to model. But it's also challenging in some other ways, like for example the bubble canopy, which we spent like 2 or 3 streams trying to make. It's very tedious. That's all I have to say about that. And we'll have to cover this bit with tape, with more tape later, to finish off this nose here. Alright. Yeah, maybe we should have done the other way around. But then this underside would have looked weird. So either way, you have to choose one location to look weird, right? So you have all these segments here, tape segments, that we'll have to cover over with another piece of tape. But I'm saying, like, if you started here, if you anchored the tape here and then cut it and then fold it the other way, it's still going to be ugly. It'll just be on the underside here, which I don't know. That might have actually been the better idea, but too late now. You know, we don't want to change that for this side because we want to keep it pretty identical, pretty symmetrical, right? So just a slight cut here, cut here, cut here. Okay. This will really help it get into place. Oh, whoops. I'm supposed to tape that one down first. Slowly work your way up. Don't skip. I can't find a good reason to skip, so I'm not going to skip. Alright, so this looks alright. This front bit here is a little off, which is very interesting, but we only need like a little tiny bit here to finish this nose off. Alright, so now we're going to cover the top here with a little tape. I know this might be a lot to you guys, but it honestly does create a better end product. It's just smoothing out all the roughness, right, in the tape job. Yeah, to be honest, there should be a nose cone here that's like white. So I don't know. I might maybe I'll do that. I say maybe because this was supposed to be like a quick project, but it's already been like 2 months. A solid 2 or 3 months already. So I don't know. I don't know if I'll do it. But this is what we gotta do. So this is annoying. I'm sure you heard that thud. It's actually quite heavy. It's quite massive right now. Alright, that was a much cleaner cut. Okay, it looks good. Okay, so we finished the forward fuselage portion here. It only took 20 minutes, which is quite a bit of time, if you ask me. So now we want to cover the back, which this scrap piece doesn't have enough thickness, unfortunately. Let me try this scrap piece right here. Let's see. Does this have enough? Wow, this is perfect. This is the scrap piece that I have, and fits quite nicely. So I'm not sure if I need like a template for this. I hope I don't. It's a pretty simple part. Alright, yeah, I definitely need to like make this tail a little less angled up. So I'm gonna pull back. Alright, there we go. Now it's completely horizontal. Or yeah, as horizontal as it can be. It's even got the little anhedral on the F-16. Right? It's a little bit pointing down. Whatever. Alright, so let's fix that a little bit, and then now we can better fit this panel here. Okay. Looks good, I think. Alright. So, this is mostly a rectangle. So, to simplify the process, I'm going to mark this location here. And this tail location, which is gonna be right here. It's a little bit out, but it's okay. You can always trim away from this later. Right, so this is kind of what we need, is this mark, but at a 90-degree angle to this. Oh, right. And then 90 degrees here. Alright, you should do it. Unless these are not perfect, then we are really screwed. But I feel like for the most part we should be okay. Just gonna trim out this rectangle. So we have this rectangle, and we have this location where we're going to tape this. Gosh darn. A little bit here. Okay, I'm just taking a quick look here. This side seems to be a little bit straighter, so I might use that. You see, this is a little bit easier, I would imagine, than creating one giant piece out of a fresh sheet of cardstock. That would have been quite involved. But this, you know, cutting it into 2 parts like this makes it a lot easier. Ah, shit. Alright, I pulled it up a little bit. Cramp. Alright. Ah, it should be good. Should be good. Let me just kind of really push it in a little bit. Alright. And then this is gonna be the interesting part, because there's a tail here that, to our advantage, moves a little bit. So we can move it to allow for this movement. Oh, the leading edge slats are very, very steep right now. But this will allow us to get a very close tape job. So this much, right? All right, like that. And then this is the fun bit. You gotta be pretty precise. You just gotta get in there and tape it. It's gonna be very, very interesting. I haven't done this since the Astra, the Canards. You know, it's a little bit different from. I guess it's not too different. It's not too different from the leading edge slats, but you want to get as close as possible here, right? So you notice that I taped this front bit, which is not. It's not good because we can't fold it over, but luckily we can just cut it like that, very close, very precisely, and then this leftover piece can now be folded super tightly onto the top side here. And now this piece is secure. Great. Yeah, I really don't know what I'm gonna do for the nozzle. It'll be very interesting, I will say that, but I don't have a solid plan yet. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. For now, there's a little bit of excess on this panel. I don't know if I am able to trim that off. It's like very slight. Might be able to eyeball this, not sure. Very thin, right? Not a lot of material. It's almost like a hair, but I think that'll help this side panel fit. Oh, that's really good. That's almost exactly what we need. All right, great. And then you can just grab a piece of tape. Get this out of the way so I don't cut myself. And then I just want to finish off this underside panel here, primer panel. And then, so we just do that. Slide this back all the way to the fulcrum. And looks good. And then just flip it back over. This is going to be very interesting to see how the mechanism moves after this. Oh my goodness. All right. Tail is not that stable, but look at that. That's a very nice tape job with minimal tolerance, you know, of the tape coming out here. Because if it comes out too much, then we really start to interfere with the mechanism action, right? Because this tail is going to move. We don't want it to interfere with, you know, we don't want this tape job to interfere with that. So I think we should be able to close it off now. So we just have a little bit on the back here, but you can definitely test this. I don't think it's meant to point up, so as long as it doesn't jam on its way down, it should be good. I think it's good. All right, that's looking great. This this slat is a little finicky. It doesn't like to behave. that's that's frustrating, but whatever. We actually need it to be up quite a bit right now to get access to this back panel here. So we're gonna do that. Yeah, I'm not sure how to deal with the nozzle, but we will deal with that eventually. Probably not today. All right, this was a bad idea. All right, see, this is what happens when you don't plan ahead, and then you have tape pieces catching onto surfaces like this. Ideally, I would be able to point this up, and then apply the piece of tape like that, but I'll just have to make do here. All right, press this down and then just kind of rip this adhesive a little bit. I don't know, I could probably use tweezers to kind of pull this ahead a little bit. God, this is not perfect. It's interfering a little bit with the fulcrum. All right, well, I mean, it's already on, so can't really do anything about it now. But you see, this is what happens when you don't pay attention. So what was meant to happen was you do it like this, right? You slide it underneath, and then you line it and whatnot. You do your stuff, and then you tape it down there, and then it makes it easy because you don't have a tail in the way. But I guess I was too used to doing it the other way that I forgot. Didn't make the adjustment here. So I'm not perfect. I'm not a machine, right? But this is a dumb mistake. It caused this little wrinkle here. All right, just gonna trim that off. And then trim this off. This is gonna be interesting to trim. It's not very reinforced, so to slide a little more than usual. Alright, I'll reinforce it myself. Alright, this should work. You gotta be very careful with this, you don't want to cut yourself. Also, get a clean cut dough. Looks good. We'll finish the nozzle some other time, but it looks very clean right now, the underside. It looks like an actual F-16 now instead of a cereal box. All right, we can finally get started. Lost my ability to speak there for a second, but it is the end of the week, so that's I like to do these things at the end of the week because it's relaxing, but now that I think about it, I'm like tired as fuck by the time it's the end of the week. So it's like, why am I actually doing this on Fridays? But it's really the best time for me creatively because during the week you work, you have ideas, and then on Fridays you can just unleash all of that, and then over the weekend you can just take a break and replenish your energy before going back to work on Monday. So alright, so this is what we have so far. I don't know what I'm going to do for the intake, but I know for sure that this nose needs a little bit of 3D-ness to it. So we're going to start work on that. Alright, so this nose is already quite stiff, but I'm thinking about adding popsicle sticks to it to make it even more stiff, and also to shift the weight forward. That'll be very nice if this nose were were to, you know, if it had a little more weight in the front. So, I don't know, popsicle stick maybe? Actually, I have no plan for this. It's not a lot of thickness, which is why I'm tempted to just use a popsicle stick. But I guess we could also use a straw if we really want to. Give it a little bit more of a bulge. Make a thick diameter straw that, you know, is like tapered here to give it a bigger nose thickness here, and then tapered in the back to transition into the intake. I think that'll look nice. So actually, we might not do the popsicle stick idea. All right, so do we use a large diameter straw or a thin diameter straw? Because I have both. I don't know which one's more appropriate. Let me just grab my iPad real quick. Get a picture of the F-16. All right. It's gonna be interesting. All right. A picture of the F-16 right here. Oh no, shoot, it's all dark. Right, trace table, that's the app. And then you grab this photo. Now you can view it. So yeah, it's a very subtle geometry, right? So let me just shift this up a little bit. Drop my keyboard to the side. So what we're dealing with here is a tiny bit of curvature, but it is a little bit of thickness. Oh, sorry, you guys can't see. All right, there we go. So it's a little curved here, which I don't know if I can capture that subtly. But it is there. So if you draw a horizontal line, there is a little bit of a offset of the thickness here. So it's a very slight thing, but I think it'll add to the overall end product. Okay, so we're gonna do this by. Also, I should probably mark out where the intake starts. So the intake starts right about here, where the canopy line thing ends here. So I should probably mark that out. So ends a little bit ahead of that. This is the intake line. You need to have it drop down here and go to the back. All right. Just a minor mark, but we need it there. And then for the nose, this is actually supposed to be round, but this is like triangular, so it's not gonna be perfect. And we already know that this plane isn't gonna be perfect, but we're trying our damn best to try and get a decent shape out of it. So I think, you know, what I'm gonna do is try and wrap a piece of cardstock around this edge, but it may or may not create a crease here because it's pretty sharp. But then I want to try and wrap it around a thin diameter straw down the center here. So I guess the first step here is to do the thin diameter straw, just to get it there first. All right, just put it back on the keyboard. All right, so we got the underside here. We got a little bit of thickness. It goes up here and then it goes back down before the intake here. So we only really need this much length. Ish, right? So I'm going to the tippy tip, and because we're gonna cut it to taper it, so it'll fit in the nose pretty well. So we don't have to worry about that. But right now I just need to cut this. All right, throw that extra to the side. really just, I mean, I guess we could eyeball this. I mean, it's already like a piece of art at this point. So this is a curved section, so it's really hard to measure perfectly, you know, perpendicular and make measurements and whatnot. But this will hopefully help a little bit. All right, so this is kind of the taper that we're looking for. Start here and reach the corner by the end. Alright, it's not great, but it'll help loft the shape a little bit better. Alright, so here we go. Oh shoot, I should loft the taper the back as well. Alright, so just have to line it like this, and then okay, so that's okay. That's not perfect, but it's gonna be a loft, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Which is contrary to my try and get everything as good as possible belief. But at some point, you need to start and you know make sacrifices to get the thing actually done. You know, can't just stay in the development phase forever. All right, so I think this was the front. Actually, it's kind of interchangeable at this point. Use this as the front. Okay, and just take this and take that down. All right. Okay, so now we're just gonna trim the excess here. Okay, looks good. Put this back. Take that down. Oh shoot! All right, it's right here. Let's cut this a little bit. It looks good. Side. So let's wrap right. All right, looks good. And trim the other side here a little bit. All right. This looks kind of weird. I'm not sure if it's... I feel like we're supposed to actually let it go all the way back a little bit more. Damn! Alright, let's see. Might have just wasted like 5 minutes of our time taping that down. Yeah, it tapers inside of the intake, so this is not correct, unfortunately. We need a much longer piece. Damn. All right, that was my mistake. My bad. All right. Well, I guess we could do this. Right, so instead of tapering it, you just leave it blunt and then force the tip to go into this curved shape, and then the back part here will be within the intake already. It'll be like behind the inlet. So I don't know. This might work better. So again, same process. This is just going to be a little bit difficult because it's a straw, three-dimensional object that we're trying to tape to a two-dimensional plane. I mean, like plane as in geometry plane, not the airplane plane. Okay, looks good. I'm just working from scraps at this point because I don't want to waste like another full straw for this loft. It's a pretty simple loft. So there we go. And then you know, like cardstock is gonna come over this and form the nose, and it's going to really just hold everything in place. You know, it's gonna create that shape for us, so we don't need a taper. Also, the process of tapering one of these straws is quite inaccurate. You might notice, like, the cut isn't lined up perfectly, things like that. So it's good that we're doing this. This is probably a better way to make the underside loft in the first place. Alright, I just trim this off again, like before. I'll be careful not to slice my own thumb open. That would suck. Okay. Then slice this side. Okay, looks good. And now comes the fun part of installing a cover piece for this underside here. Yo, that's gonna be tough because we have this shape to start with. I don't know if this will work. This will definitely not work because it's a little bit too narrow. Yeah, this nose is quite finicky. See this, it wants to point up a little bit, but we need it to point down. Can't really do that. don't know. I don't know. All right. I don't know how to do this. We'll figure it out. We can do it piece by piece, but I don't want it to take as long as this canopy here. The canopy is a major feature, that's why we spent a lot of time there, but this is just a cover piece. Shouldn't take that long, right? Alright, so I'm gonna put this to the side for a bit. Just gotta prototype something. Right, so just need a piece that's a little bit wider than what we have. Okay, so we need to get that out of the way. Right, like that. And then like this. And then I don't know. Give it a bit of an offset. So what I'm gonna do right now is get this center point down. I'm gonna draw a symmetry line down the middle. And this will allow me to create a symmetrical piece. Right. So I'm going to give it a little bit more clearance here. It's kind of like an offset. This is the baseline, right? And then you have your offset here. And then let's just end it here at this point. I don't even know if this is gonna work, but we need a little bit extra to start off, and we trim our way back down to get a perfect shape. Okay, and I just grab a ruler real quick. Clear ruler. Put this down. Aluminum ruler to do the fold. You just fold it all the way over. Once it's all the way over, you trace this symmetrical piece like that. And then we can cut this. Alright, looks good. So this is a bunch of extra material on the sides, but it should help us figure out what we need. Okay, so we probably need a cut here. And then you know this is this offset is a little bit too much. So I'm gonna do a light trace here. I think the baseline is decent. Baseline is decent. All right, but we do need to make a cut here. to let it relieve the stress that comes from folding. Okay. So that's all right. So now to make this cut without having to mark it again. There might be a little bit of a gap here between the line and where I actually cut, and that's because I want to make sure that we have, I'm kind of hesitant because we need to make sure that it matches, and if we cut too much then there won't be enough material to do the matching. Okay, I think we could try and prototype a piece from cardstock. Just see how this goes. Right. Just trace this. Turn it to the side. Okay, let's check if there are any chats. Nope, nothing. All right, good for now. And we don't really need to mark the center line yet. Now this cardstock piece does have to be quite precise. Have to be on the line. Okay. Oh, looks decent. There's a little bit left on the edge here. Just gonna cut that off. And then this, I have no idea if it's gonna work, but let's see how it fits first before we cut that slot. Yeah. I feel like this would look a lot better on an F22 because this side is sharp. It's not round. But I don't know. We can't really get that round shape here. It's gonna be quite difficult, quite tedious to do that. So I don't think it's worth it. That means we should make a cut here. Yeah, we should make a cut. All right. Just need to cut this to relieve the piece from stress. Okay, let me just get on to the other side here. much easier with a light table, which fortunately we do have in the form of an iPad. I don't even need the app. Just see, it's light. It's perfectly on the other side. And then just turn that off. And then we have our template. God. I'd probably use my phone in that case, but my phone is being used for live streaming, so. Okay, looks good. And then let's trim this and this. And then hopefully this will help it form better. Yeah, this is gonna be quite difficult. Alright, so you just gotta align the nose. Okay, so I think for this, we're gonna start at the nose. This is just a little bit easier to start there. I have to make several cuts because the nose is a very curved location here. That's quite a few cuts, to be honest, but it's to be expected. It's a complex part. I'm just gonna zoom in a little closer here. Looks good. Yep, looks good. Yep, looks good. Oh god, the top looks absolutely terrible. We're gonna have to cover this with a nose cone probably to really cover all of that up. And then we just take another piece of tape here. Put that on. Trim that. Leaf. grab a piece of tape, and then just go for it. You know, just sometimes in life you just gotta go for it, and this is one of those times. I'm gonna make the cuts again. Alright, looks decent. Fold that over. Fold that over. Fold that over. Fold that over. Yeah, this is looking really tapey. This is a lot of tape. Might have to trim this a little bit, but it'll be okay. Alright, just grab another piece of tape like that. Okay, so this is a little bit bent. Just trying to unbend this over a little bit. All right, sorry about that. Just talking to myself. Okay, let's go. Tension. Okay, let's take our X-Acto knife. See if we can cut this. It's a little bit difficult, but it's doable. Okay, same with this side here. Here. Okay, looks good. And yeah, that's an interesting looking nose. Looks better than before. So that's a win in my books. Again, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I think this is a pretty decent result so far. Oh shoot, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to transfer that mark where the intake starts. But we know it's just a little bit ahead of this piece. Maybe just mark it again. Not a huge deal, but it was right there underneath. So it is what it is. Alright, so now we have to build the intake. I don't know how to build the intake because I have never built a detailed intake before. If you look at my past projects, they've all been just single layer, well, except for the X47, or also except for the Rapid Prototype 003, which has a blunt leading edge here for the intake, for the inlet structure. But that won't, I don't know if that'll be the case for this F16 because it's a pretty sharp inlet lip. All right, so got the nose done pretty much. Might have to add a nose cone down the line, but who knows. Um, Again, this is a lot of tape here. But I think a nose cone would really finish off this nose quite well, like a white nose cone here. Might do that in addition to the tail cone, or the the nozzle, the tail nozzle here. But as for the intake, I'm gonna have to do some research. Let's actually take a look at the intake structure for the engine. Okay, so I have a reference diagram here. So what we're seeing right here is kind of the inlet structure. So this is gonna be like slightly wider than the cockpit. Right? It's gonna be aligned with the gun here, which we don't have, but it's gonna be like right near that root fillet right here. So that's how far out we need to go. And then how deep is, this is approximately the thickness of this nose. It's a little bit less, right? It's this nose portion from here to here, and then we put our intake here to here. So I don't know, just give or take, might be like 1.5 centimeters thickness here. Then it's going to be a round shape. So this is going to be the most difficult part about this inlet, is that it's round like this. There's also a diverter plate here. I don't know if I'm going to add that structure. So it's like an airfoil, like when you look at it from here, right? It's a diverter structure, but it's like hidden right underneath that diverter plate. I don't think I will do that because it's a little bit hard to model that. Then like this goes all the way back, right? It kind of just goes straight, and then up until this point right here. So I think we might break up the bottom here into several portions. This bit right here is almost aligned with where this intersects. So right about here. Oh, actually, that's perfect. That's like the leading edge of the forward tip of the tail here. So that's where the ventral fins are aligned. Also, that's great. That's it's all aligned here, and then we can end it right there, the straight portion of the inlet. So I want to mark that out real quick. So it's going to go straight until here. It's going to start here. And I think, this matches perfectly here. Oh, sorry. I'm not supposed to use a graphite pencil on an iPad. This goes up right until this thickness. So I think our intake just literally starts right here. And the thickness is this entire edge here. Because you don't see it from the top. But from the side, it's like perfectly aligned. Right, oh, you guys can't see. I'm sorry about that. For here, it goes up, but as you can see from the top, you can't see the intake, so that means it must intersect wherever it starts, which is probably right about here, if I were to guess. Right. The inlet starts right about here because that's where the canopy here comes forward. Right. Bends here, and then intake starts here and then goes back all the way until this portion right here, which is this leading edge here. So that's some research. That's how you think about these things. You pick some points and then try and match them up and see if they work. I will have to apply a little bit more tape to this bit right here to cover that up a little bit better. Not a huge deal. All right, and then the intake. Now we have to work on it. Oh God, this thing is gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to do because it's such a weird, complicated, organic shape. But the good thing is we have printer paper, so we can make lots of prototypes. We don't have to commit to a shape initially. All right, so let me just take out. So this is good. We can prototype with this. Just move this to the side here. iPad to the side. Let me just turn on an extra light for a second. All right, we're at 107 minutes. I think it's like 130 something. So we got like 23 more minutes left in the stream. It's kind of usually when I end these things. Okay, so I think we can actually compress this down a little bit more. Just get it a little bit flatter. That's a little better. And then this intake hangs off here and then goes to back. Okay. So how long is this thing? It's probably the length here, which is 13.7. 13.7. All right. That doesn't matter where, because none of the edges are right. We'll just do 13.7. Let's just go to 14, yeah. 14 here. And then how wide is it? It's about 3.2 wide. So let's just give it 3.5. It's gonna be a little bit larger than what we need. So 3.5 plus how high do we want it to go? About 1.3-ish. I'll give it 1.5. And then you need the anchor. So we need to keep track of this. We got 3.5, right, for the width here. Nope, I lied. Wait, just kidding. No, it is 3.5. All right, 3.5 times 1. There's one of this surface. And then the height, which is, there's 2 because on each side there's a little bit of a thickness. That's going to be, what, 1.5 cm, yep. And then times 2, we need a handle, or an attachment point to the base here. That's gonna be what, like, I don't know. That's gonna be, let's give it like half a centimeter. Do you think that's enough? No, half centimeter is not good. All right, 1 centimeter. And then you add this all up. So you got 3.5 plus 3.0 plus
2, which gives you 5, 6, 8, 8.5 cm. So 8.5 cm for this, and then whatever this is, it's what, 13 point, what did we say it was? 14? Just 14. All right. That's how you roughly size these things. Okay, 14 here, and then 8.5 this way. Oh shoot, that's not good. You can hold it in place. God, the shadows are annoying. Okay. Oh, alright, that didn't end well. There we go, much better. So this is kind of the rough size of the thing that we need. Okay, looks good. And then this. This is the hard bit. Measuring. Alright, so this is not perfect, but 1 here, 1.5, and then 2.5, and then 1.5, and then I measured wrong. I cannot do math. Erase this. This. I was like, what? I thought I measured this right. And then 1.5. There we go. Much better. Alright, let's see if I remember all of that. 1, right? And then 1.5, and then 1, 2, 3, and then 1.5. Okay, so as you can tell, I am not good at drawing rectangles. Shit. That sucks. Right. Alright, well, at least we can start with the middle here. Nope. This is so bad. Like I drew it so poorly that it just doesn't even line up. Wow. This is why we can't have nice things. Wait, no, this might have been right actually. No, just kidding. It's not right. Fuck. Alright. Well, we can just eyeball it anyway. This fucking sucks. Alright, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna fold a centimeter in on each side and then go from there. We're gonna shape it however the heck it's gonna be shaped. Oh god, this is kind of like me rage quitting at this point. So we're at what, 116. We got like 14 more minutes. Okay, looks good. And then, you know, so this is gonna be on the inside, right? So you need to crease this a little bit harder. And then, so it's gonna be mounted like this, sort of. We have a lot of extra length, but that's gonna be okay because we're purely experimenting right now. Holy cow, that's a thick intake. Alright, yeah, we probably need to cut down on length because my rounding was like was a lot. I rounded quite aggressively. So this is not actually what we need. This is a lot more than what we need. I'd say like we're good 2 centimeters off. So we cut 2 centimeters off this thing from here. So, oh, yep, that's 3 centimeters, which is perfect. 3 centimeters here. This is why it's always nice to start with a right angle edge. So then you can actually measure lines and draw rectangles, but no, I just had to start in the middle of a piece of paper. Yeet. Alright, there we go. And then we need a centimeter more. Centimeter. Ah, shit. Should have marked it on the other side. Damn it. Alright. Alright, just take this ruler, right? And then just, just flip this up. Get underneath. Pinch. Except now we gotta fold it the other way. So you marked it on the wrong side. Alright. Looks good. And then you just do that kind of a curve thing. Hey, this looks a little bit more reasonable. I think we might have cut off too much material. But, that said, if we get the height right, we can check the side profile and see that it is, oh my god, that is beautiful. Except it's a little narrow. It's a little bit narrower than the cockpit, but that's okay. This is the right height. It's just a little bit. God damn it. I really don't want to do another loft, but I already did it for the canopy, so I might have to do it now for the inlet. Oh god, This is difficult. All right, because we did such a nice shape here. If we can, you know, define the width, the height, right, then we can actually make a loft for this. And it's quite straightforward if you think about it, but it's just, I don't know if it's worth the time, man. Because we can match the side profile perfectly in that case. We don't have to rely on bending a piece of paper like this and sticking it on, calling it a day, you know. Let's see. Let's think about this for a second. All right. So if we do that, it'll look a little bit weird. It's a little small. The intake is a little small. I'm actually tempted to do the loft. Because if I do the loft, this is gonna be a very nice looking intake. I'm also tempted to end this section a little bit earlier because it's a little bit too bulbous in the back. Probably like cut it here. Yeah. All right, so I need to do two things. I need to trim this and the underlying structure underneath. Because right now this looks too bulbous, right? Even if we cover this, it's, you know, the inlet is going to be ramped up a little bit. Right, there's an up ramp up to the inlet, which is not what we want. We want this. Oh, sorry, you guys can't see. I'm so sorry about that. So right now this bit is too long. It needs to start tapering before this. Right, so ideally it'll look like this. Right, it'll taper up right at the intake. Right now it's a little bit too aft. So I'm thinking about cutting this and the underlying structure away so that it'll be a nice, you know, kind of a transition in. And then after that, we need to loft several locations, but we're not gonna loft right at the front. We're gonna loft here, here, and here, and maybe here and here. So like 5 lofts. But this will be pretty straightforward because they're constant cross-section essentially. I mean, if anything, it's a little bit tapered in the back, I would say. But it's gonna be quite straightforward because they're gonna be the same cross-section. So lofting will be a lot faster with that. You know, I'm saying that now, but I don't know if that's actually gonna be the case. But we should be able to loft this just the same way as we did this this structure right here for the cockpit. It's gonna be a very rigid structure too. That's very important because if it's not rigid, then your plane is gonna land and it's gonna crush its own intake, right? It's eventually going to crash land because it's an unpowered glider. So if your structure is hollow, like this prototype here from a printer paper, right? If it's hollow like this, and when you crash, this thing is gonna just go splat. You know, it's not gonna be very strong. But if we have like some type of cross section here, and a loft, a very strong perpendicular joint with a half cut on each part, it'll result in a very, very rigid part. Like you could bang this canopy and it's still, it's still intact, you know? So that's good. So we need to make this mod, right? We need to cut this away, fix that up. Right, just get this taper to look a lot better. And then install the lofts for the intake. And after the lofts and the the longitudinal piece and then the span-wise pieces are intersected and secured onto the base, after that we can panel around that, which should be pretty fast. It's a cylinder essentially, but there might be some technical difficulties along the way, of course, but this will be a very rigid structure is my point. And then with a loft, we're able to actually maybe make a longer piece too, all the way to the back. So I'll have to like get an image of an F-16's underside and really just follow that as closely as I can next time. I don't think we'll be able to do much in the next 3 minutes, but I'm just trying to go over the plan for next time, right? So this is kind of where we're at so far. Today we finished off the bottom side. It used to be like a cereal box, right? And now it's just all gray cardstock, which is good. It's kind of like a primer in that sense, right? We mentioned that because you don't want to be taping directly onto the box. It'll be kind of difficult because it's a shiny material. It's very glossy, right? So we primed it. We installed a nose kind of spar here. Well, it's not really a spar, it's like a loft structure. And then we taped over that so the nose actually now has a 3-dimensional underside as well. And then this isn't perfect, right? It's very sharp here, but it approximates the shape quite well. I think this will be very nice for like a future F-22 project or something. This looks very much like a stealth plane. Like if you covered the rest of the plane and only saw this part here, it's gonna be quite nice looking, like for a stealth fighter. But we'll have to make do, right? This is gonna be sharp anyways. But yeah, I was gonna say like we need to modify this next time, right? Just really start to cut in with like an X-Acto knife or something. I don't know where it's at right now, but yeah, that's right. Okay, it's right here. So we need to start cutting into here, do some minor adjustment, right? Because right now this is too thick. It should be a lot thinner at this point, and then that's where the intake is, hangs off of there. So once that's done, once I remove this, then we should be able to start lofting the intake, and we're going to do a longitudinal piece and 4 or 5 horizontal span-wide pieces, half cuts that intersect kind of like this, right? So it's a very rigid structure to be able to handle the landings, and I think that should be good, and we should be okay from there on. So we have a plan for next time. Who knows, I might do something different, but this is the general idea for now. This is looking great. This is almost there. We just need that intake structure, and then this whole thing will look a lot closer to the real life product. So that's pretty much it for today. So thanks for watching, and stay safe, work on your own projects, and I'll see you guys next time.